So this could be an interesting little video here. It was going to start off, we're here at my Syracuse studio in front of the oval wall, looking at these vintage space toys and packaging for ideas. And I wanted to do a video about the Geiger Counter Guy. I think he's probably the most widely copied of the Marx style, made in Hong Kong, Spaceman poses. Very widely known, and these are probably the most familiar ones here. These are by MPC. There's a nice painted one. That one's just got a made in Hong Kong on the bottom. This guy here with no base, he's usually associated with, I think, LP Toys, who also did this little one for the Golden Astronaut series. Here's a trio by Timmy, or in the Timmy style, and then some Hing Fat Space Bucket guys with their Geiger counter. I like the one who's missing the arm, and interestingly, he's made of a kind of plastic that the sticky putty I put on most of them it won't stick to. It won't stick to the guy who's missing the arm, and who is of a darker plastic with the numbering on the bottom that I'm starting to become convinced might be an original quote-unquote casting of these very familiar looking guys. The gray ones are much more prevalent than the white ones, which were the first guys that I found, and I'm pretty sure that the set that I had as a kid were also cast in white. This larger version here just has a china on the bottom, and he's got painted features. He came to me with a lot purchase of some Archer and Ajax Spacemen that were very clearly of the age to suggest that he had been part of a legit vintage collection. And of course, here behind them we've got unique party favor, still sealed, unused, made in Hong Kong Star Warrior 8 party favors set, and there's both a multicolored and a black Geiger Counter Guy. I've also got one over here. I'm not sure how much light we've got this far over, but there's one that's part of this unique Keke decoration set, cast in red, of which this guy here with the rifle is one that I opened, and they just have Hong Kong on the bottom. Well, anyway, the revelation that I came to when I was making this is that none of the guys here holding these Geiger counters are by Marx. They're all either by MPC, Timmy. These are all made in China, so I don't think Marx was around long enough to really have any of their stuff made in China. As far as I know, that indicates it was made in 1972 or later. The only one that's actually by Marx is this guy over here with the Geiger, whatever that is, his metal surveying tool. There's the stamp on the bottom. And what I think both myself and a lot of other people have been doing, and mine the sticky putty, is misreading that MPC stamp there as a Marx stamp. I don't have one of these guys that's marked Marx. They're all have the MPC stamp on it, and I think maybe I just never really sat down and thought about it. Let's see it there as well. MP, and then the C along the bottom. And I'm sorry, they just, you have to put putty on it. A fan on in here. It's like 80 degrees today in Syracuse. But anyway, the only Marx Spacemen that I have are like the Operation Moonbase guys, and these dudes here from Giant Martian Apollo Landing. Here are some Marx. These are Operation Moonbase, and then another Giant Martian Landing. Sorry, Giant Martian Landing from 1972. That was when that form debuted in that size. There were the larger figures were probably late 1960s. All of these are by Marx, and the only one that has really a device in his hand is maybe that guy there with his wrench, and of course the camera guy. There is no Geiger Counter Guy in the Operation Moonbase set. And next to them are more MPC spacemen using that camera guy pose. I guess at some point Marx removed the base and recast it. Either that or I got one here that somebody had cut the base off of. I'm not sure exactly what the story was. These are all have the MPC stamp on the bottom. He's just marked Hong Kong because he's from one of these sets here with the rocket gantry. And all of these guys in here, these are all either MPC stamped or they're copies made in Hong Kong that either just have Hong Kong or no stamp on them at all. These are all stamped MPC. Some of them, this blue set, this set here with the lighter blue, then most of them all of a sudden becomes interesting. And it was only when setting this up I realized how much taller he is than the copy standing next to him, which has no mark at all. There's nothing on his base, so we can sort of see who's copying who. And the question, this one here is interesting too. This one just has Hong Kong. I want to say that the Ancient Mariner sent me that one. This one I picked up just sort of as a single. The Golden Astronaut version came from the Mariner as well. And there's a nickel for scale. That to me is, I got the one in the front first, and you can sort of see how his plastic is a little bit different than the one on the behind him, and of course the pink one's pink. But one of the things that's sort of annoying about to me is that they didn't mark their product, and it's sort of difficult to know which ones came first. Same with Hing Fat, or whoever originated this form. I'm convinced that it originated in China, and that sort of the design work was probably done in Hong Kong, and then the forms were first cast in China as part of those Space Adventure bucket sets in or around about 1972, which is when Chinese export laws or tariff laws regarding Chinese exports changed to accommodate production on mainland China, and all of the major plastics companies moved their factories to mainland China. So the ones that are Hong Kong oriented all likely came before 1972, except for things like these. I want to say these are mid to later 1970s. They're not hard to come by. This one was 2 for $1 at what is that? Odd Lot. Fucking, I give so much to go back through time to visit Odd Lot. And they're all they say on the bottom is a Hong Kong as well, or maybe those have nothing. Let's take a look. Taped it up there. I can't remember what's on them. Yeah, these all have Hong Kong on them, which would make sense because it's the same as the ones that I opened there in the rocket gantry set. He's just gonna fall, so I'm gonna pull him down here. But these are my only, these are my Marx smaller size astronauts. There's Operation Moonbase, there's some Cape Canaveral. I think that's a Space Patrol dude. I've been watching those. That was a great show. Great television is still great television 60 years later. And then some smaller ones from like the Disneyland set mixed in. But I had presumed that these, distinctive looking Hong Kong spacemen originated from Marx. And I don't know. I mean, sort of, they didn't do a Geiger Counter Guy. That's the closest they got to it. And I guess I just never really understood that until right now. And I'm like, wait a minute, that means that these are the only Marx plastic 2-inch or whatever spacemen I have. Those are all by other people, and not only me but many other people were misreading that MPC stamp as indicating it's Marx, but it's MPC. Why couldn't a Hong Kong company have come up with their own enduring form? What would it have to be Marx Toys, specifically an American company? And I'm just rethinking the whole thing. I'm sitting here and I'm going, you know what? I mean, you even look at these two, the camera guys, they're clearly different. For one thing, none of the Marx guys have oxygen tanks on the back. Sorry, the MPC guys do have oxygen tanks. The suit detailing is different, but like below, it's tough to see it here without a neutral background, but the blue guy is clearly smaller than the white guy. And the white guy's pose is clearly different than the gray guy, which is Marx. So they're not Marx. Or rather, Marx, they're by different designers with different design strategies, different intentions in mind. And I'm really intrigued by it. And I've always loved the Geiger Counter Guys. I used to pretend it was a rifle or a flamethrower when I was a kid, but it's there to collect scientific data and explore the moon with Apollo Moon Exploring. Look at a nicely painted guy. I thought that was by Marx. And Marx may have painted it. I can see that one as part of like a box set in a window box thing. I'm not sure what the story with these is. You'll have to go. He's mentioned on the SpaceX website, and the SpaceX website was probably what got me thinking. I don't really know who made any of this stuff other than the ones that are clearly marked Marx. And I think there's a lot of misconception going along among the vendors, and I've been probably more following what vendors had to say than anything until now, when I finally have enough data in my mind to all of a sudden say, wait a minute, these are the only ones I got which are about Marx. Piles of these things over here. The LP poses are all uniquely different, and they don't have a Geiger counter guy. I was going through my LPs getting ready for this, and was stunned to realize, actually they never did a Geiger counter. So what's the story with that? Well, they did, but it was a copy of this one, and I think the way to refer to them from now on is Marx style, styled after the Operation Moonbase look, but definitely not Marx. Does it make sense? Huh?